Welcome to our deep dive into the world of Naval Ravikant. We're going to be looking at how to build wealth and happiness.
Yeah, and we're going straight to the source, a book called The Almanack of Naval Ravikant.
It's full of Naval's thoughts and principles, and, he has this incredible way of getting to the core of complex ideas.
He really cuts through all the noise and helps you understand the why behind everything.
Exactly. And, you're all about getting knowledge efficiently, so we're going to dive right into the most actionable advice from Naval, the stuff that can really make a difference in your journey.
Sounds good.
Okay, so one of the first things that struck me was how Naval views wealth. He sees it as something completely different from just money or status.
Right, he's not about chasing those superficial things.
So seeking wealth, not money or status, that's a big idea. What's the core difference there?
Okay, well, think of wealth like owning a fruit tree. It keeps giving you fruit, even while you sleep. Those are assets working for you. Money, it's just what you use to buy and sell the fruit. It's just a tool. And then there's status, which is like being popular in high school.
Okay.
It comes and goes, and it doesn't mean you'll have any fruit trees later on.
That's a brilliant analogy. It really clarifies things. And it reminds me of Naval's How to Get Rich tweets that went viral. Remember those?
Yeah.
Super short, but packed with wisdom.
Exactly. You can tell he's been thinking about this stuff for a long time.
Yeah, even as a teenager, he was formulating these principles.
Yeah, it's fascinating, right? And one of those core principles is owning equity, not your time.
So you're saying working for someone else, trading hours for dollars, that's not the way to go.
Not if you want real wealth. See, you can work really hard, but there's a limit to how much time you can actually sell.
Right.
Real wealth comes from owning a piece of something bigger, a business that's generating value, even when you're not clocking in.
That makes a lot of sense. But how do we find those opportunities? How do we even begin to create those kinds of businesses? I mean, Naval talks about giving society what it wants but doesn't know how to get on a large scale. It's powerful, but a little intimidating.
Yeah, it sounds daunting, but it all starts with something Naval calls specific knowledge. Think of it as your unique superpower.
Okay.
It's the set of skills and expertise that only you have. The thing that makes you truly valuable.
Okay, I'm with you. But how do we even know what our specific knowledge is?
Take a trip down memory lane. Think back to your childhood.
Sure did.
What were you drawn to? What did you love to do? What felt like play to you, even if it seemed like work to others?
Yeah.
Maybe you were obsessed with taking things apart.
Right.
Or you couldn't get enough of history books.
I was always fascinated by languages, like learning new words, understanding different cultures.
Wow, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
That passion for languages could be incredibly valuable.
Really?
Especially in today's world. Maybe your specific knowledge lies in connecting people across cultures, bridging communication gaps.
I like that.
Naval would say that's a powerful skill.
Wow, so it's about taking those passions and turning them into something valuable. It's not just about, follow your bliss and hope for the best.
Exactly. It's about finding the intersection of what you love, what you're good at, and what the world needs.
That's a great way to put it. And speaking of what the world needs, we can't ignore the internet, right? I mean, Naval talks about it as a game changer for careers and wealth building.
Absolutely. The internet has completely changed the game. Now, anyone with a niche expertise can build an audience and a business.
That's amazing. It's like the playing field has been leveled.
Naval calls it escaping competition through authenticity.
So by being ourselves, we carve out a space where no one else can compete.
Exactly. Think about someone like Joe Rogan.
Oh, yeah, he's got a huge following.
He's built a huge following just by being himself. Sharing his passions and interests.
Right. He's just being authentic.
And then there's Scott Adams, the Dilbert guy.
Oh, yeah. I love Dilbert.
He combined his sense of humor with his understanding of office life, and boom, a successful comic strip.
It's so inspiring to see how people have used their unique perspectives to create something amazing.
Totally. And, Naval also emphasizes the importance of accountability. You can't escape that.
Accountability. So taking ownership of our actions.
That's it. He's a big believer in personal responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
He even talks about embracing public accountability, even though it can be scary.
I bet.
He shared how he was hesitant to talk publicly about anything beyond tech and investing.
Oh, really? Why?
He thought it would hurt his career.
Oh, I see.
But he pushed past that fear and allowed him to reach a wider audience and make a bigger impact.
That's so interesting. It shows how growth often requires us to step outside our comfort zones.
For sure. And this ties into his idea of leverage.
Oh, leverage. He talks about that a lot.
It's about using tools to multiply your efforts.
I can see how that's crucial for building wealth.
The most obvious kind of leverage is capital, basically money.
Right. Money makes money.
Then there's labor getting other people to work for you.
Of course.
And then there's code building software that can run 24/7.
Ah, like automation.
Exactly.
And we can't forget media, like books and podcasts like this one.
Yeah. Reaching a large audience with your ideas, that's leverage too.
That's incredible. So many different types of leverage available to us these
It's
days.
amazing, right? But Naval is also quick to point out that leverage only works if you have good judgment.
Right, because you can amplify your mistakes too, right?
Exactly. He defines judgment as the ability to see the long-term consequences of your actions.
So it's not just about being smart, it's about being wise.
It's like steering a giant ship. A small error can have huge repercussions.
They get it.
And Naval talks about Warren Buffett as a prime example of good judgment. He's built his fortune through long-term, well-considered investments.
Yeah, he's known for his patience and discipline.
Exactly. And Naval argues that good judgment comes from understanding fundamental principles, not chasing fads.
Interesting. So it's about building a solid foundation of knowledge.
He even suggests that instead of reading tons of business books, you should focus on things like microeconomics, psychology, even game theory.
Wow, that's a different perspective.
It's about understanding how the world really works, not just following the latest trends.
So it's about the long game, right? Playing the long game.
That leads us to another key idea: long-term games.
What does he mean by that?
It's about building relationships you can trust,
All right.
focusing on creating value over time, not chasing quick wins.
So it's about building something sustainable, something with real depth.
Exactly. He often talks about his partnership with Elad Gil, the successful investor. They have this long-standing relationship based on mutual respect and a shared vision.
So it's a compound interest for relationships.
You got it. The more you invest in genuine connections, the more they pay off over time.
That makes a lot of sense. And I think it ties into the idea of patience and persistence that Naval emphasizes.
Absolutely.
He believes that real success takes time and consistent effort.
He doesn't believe in get-rich-quick schemes.
He's all about the grind.
He uses his own journey as an example. He had challenges, setbacks along the way,
I'm sure.
but he was committed to his vision. He was willing to learn and adapt.
And that ultimately led to his success.
Exactly. It's about trusting the process, even when it's slow.
Not giving up, even when things get tough.
Right. It's about having that long-term vision and consistently putting in the work, knowing that eventually your efforts will compound.
So it's not just about working hard, it's about working smart and working consistently.
That's the key. It's about aligning your efforts with your values, your goals, and your specific knowledge.
And having the patience to see it through.
Exactly.
You know, it's fascinating how much of what we just talked about, like building wealth, ties back to mindset.
It really does.
You know, having that long-term perspective, focusing on real value, and building skills and relationships that last. It's not just tactics, it's like character and wisdom, you know?
Absolutely. And what's interesting is how those same principles apply to happiness.
Okay, so we're moving into happiness now.
Yeah,
That's perfect because you're looking for both, right? Wealth and happiness.
that's right.
And Naval has a lot to say about finding that inner peace and contentment.
Yeah, he does. And you know what's really interesting?
What?
Naval admits that he didn't always prioritize happiness.
Oh, really?
Early on, he was all about financial success.
Makes sense.
But over time, he realized that true happiness, it comes from within.
So it's not about external things.
Not about stuff, achievements, any of that.
Okay.
It's an internal state of being.
I like that.
Yeah.
So true happiness isn't tied to your bank account.
Not at all. And he goes even further to say that happiness is a choice.
A choice.
Yeah, it's a skill.
Like we can develop it.
Just like you would train your body. You can train your mind for happiness.
So instead of waiting for happiness to find us, we can actually work towards it.
Exactly. It's about taking control.
I love that. It puts us in the driver's seat.
It's all about shifting your perspective.
Okay.
Think of it as a practice, something you do every day.
Not just a feeling that comes and goes.
Exactly.
You know, this reminds me of what he says about being present,
Oh, yeah, that's huge.
living in the moment, letting go of regrets and worries.
So important.
I struggle with that, always thinking about what's next.
It's so easy to get caught up in that nexting, right?
Yeah.
But it creates anxiety. We're so busy planning for the future that we forget to enjoy what's right here, right now.
That's so true. It's like we're always chasing something.
Always looking ahead.
So, any practical tips for being more present?
Well, Naval suggests limiting distractions,
Like social media.
especially social media.
Yep.
Even just a few minutes of quiet reflection each day can make a huge difference.
I can see that. And he also talks about acceptance, right? Finding peace through acceptance.
He's a big advocate for that.
So accepting the things we can't control instead of fighting against them.
Exactly. That's where inner peace comes from.
It's easier said than done, though.
It's tough to let go of that need for control, right?
Yeah.
But think of it as freeing up mental energy.
Okay.
Instead of dwelling on things you can't change, you can focus on what you can influence.
So turning challenges into opportunities.
Naval would say, yeah, absolutely.
Instead of seeing setbacks as failures, we can see them as lessons.
Exactly. And this ties back to the idea that happiness is a lot about interpretation.
So how we choose to see the world.
You can focus on the good or the bad.
We have that power, even when things are tough.
Absolutely. And another key piece of this is habits.
Habits.
The things we do every day.
Okay.
They have a huge impact on our well-being.
So, like, what kind of habits are we talking about here? What leads to happiness?
He talks about a healthy diet,
Of course.
regular exercise,
Right, the basics.
spending time in nature.
Yeah, makes sense.
All those things contribute to feeling balanced and joyful. He actually shares how starting a daily workout routine transformed his life.
It's amazing how small changes can add up, right?
Consistency is key.
And speaking of habits for inner peace, Naval is big on meditation.
Oh yeah, huge fan.
He calls it intermittent fasting for the mind.
That's such a great way to put it.
Right, like giving our minds a break from all the noise and chatter.
He believes it helps to quiet the mind, increase self-awareness, and find calm.
It's like training your mind to be more present.
More focused, less reactive.
I've tried meditating, but it's hard to quiet my mind.
It takes practice, but it's worth it.
Yeah.
And there are tons of techniques out there. It's about finding what works for you.
Makes sense.
Naval himself has tried different forms of meditation.
Yeah.
He said it's been incredibly beneficial.
That's encouraging to hear.
Yeah.
And finally, Naval talks about breaking free from expectations, right? Defining success on our own terms.
He challenges the idea that there's only one right path to happiness.
It's about being true to ourselves.
Embracing our authentic selves, letting go of the need to please everyone.
So having the courage to be different, to go against the grain.
Exactly. He reminds us that we're all unique, with our own strengths and passions.
Right.
True happiness comes from aligning our lives with those core aspects of ourselves,
It's like giving ourselves permission to be who we truly are.
not who others think we should be.
And I think that's so important in today's world with all the pressure to conform.
It's easy to lose sight of ourselves.
So it's about finding that inner compass and following it no matter what.
Exactly. And Naval has this really interesting idea.
What's up?
He says there are no adults in the traditional sense.
What does he mean?
He means everyone's just figuring things out as they go along.
So we're all in the same boat.
We might as well embrace the journey and have some fun along the way.
I love that. It takes the pressure off.
It allows us to be more playful and experimental.
And you know, as we wrap up this deep dive into Naval's world, it's incredible how he connects all these different ideas.
He really does.
He's like a true polymath, you know?
Totally.
He pushes us to think bigger, question our assumptions.
And to live more intentionally.
And I think his most important message is this. True wealth and happiness aren't about what you achieve, but about who you become.
It's about inner peace, living by your values, and being your true self.
And that brings us to the final part of our deep dive.
Where we'll explore some of Naval's even broader philosophical reflections.
We'll delve into his thoughts on the meaning of life.
The importance of values.
And the power of choosing to be yourself. It's amazing how we go from wealth and happiness to these, like, really big questions about life.
I know, right?
It's like Naval helps you see the whole picture.
Yeah, he connects the dots between tech and business and even philosophy and spirituality.
So let's talk about meaning, like the meaning of life. What does Naval say about that?
Well, he doesn't pretend to have all the answers.
Right.
He recognizes it's a question we each have to figure out on our own.
Yeah, it's a personal thing.
But he definitely has some interesting thoughts on it.
Like what?
One idea is that maybe there's no inherent meaning, like baked into the universe.
Okay.
It's up to us to create our own meaning, decide what matters.
So we're not just along for the ride.
We have a say in how things unfold.
We have agency.
Exactly.
That's powerful.
He also suggests that maybe the meaning of life is to create order, complexity, in a universe that's always tending towards disorder.
That's interesting.
It's like we're these little pockets of resistance against chaos, building things, making connections.
I like that.
creating beauty.
That's beautiful. And how do our values fit into this?
Oh, values are huge for Naval.
Okay.
He sees them as a compass.
Guiding our actions.
Exactly. He believes that true happiness comes from living in alignment with your values.
So not chasing external validation.
No, it's about what truly matters to you.
It's about knowing yourself.
Yeah. He shares that his own values include honesty, integrity, treating others as equals.
Those are good ones.
Those values have guided his decisions in business and in life.
And it sounds like it's led to strong relationships.
And inner peace.
It all comes back to that, doesn't it? Relationships and inner peace.
Those are the true measures of success.
Not just money or status.
Right. And in a world that's constantly telling us what to want and how to live, it's more important than ever to define our own values.
To have the courage to be ourselves.
Exactly. And Naval is all about authenticity, embracing our unique qualities, letting go of the need to fit in,
To be real.
to express ourselves genuinely.
It's like trying to be someone you're not. That's just a recipe for unhappiness.
He's really big on this idea that there are no adults in the traditional sense.
Wait, what?
Like everyone's just figuring things out as they go along.
We're all making it up?
Pretty much. So we might as well embrace the journey, have some fun with it.
I love that. No pressure.
Exactly.
Just be yourself. Figure it out as you go.
That's the beauty of it.
And as we wrap up this deep dive, it's incredible how Naval manages to connect all these seemingly different ideas.
I know, it's amazing.
He's a true polymath, pushing us to think bigger, question our assumptions.
And to live a more deliberate life.
More intentionally.
Exactly.
And I think his most important message is this. True wealth and happiness, they're not about what you achieve, but about who you become.
It's about the journey, not the destination.
It's about inner growth, living in alignment with your values.
And embracing your authentic self.
And Naval leaves us with this really thought-provoking idea.
Oh yeah? What's that?
He says life is ultimately a single-player game.
We're all on our own unique path.
We get to define what success looks like.
What fulfillment means.
So as we close out this deep dive into Naval's wisdom, what's the one thing you hope our listeners take away?
I hope they feel empowered to take ownership of their journey. To remember that building wealth and finding happiness, they're not separate things. They're intertwined.
Right, like two sides of the same coin.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And both require a commitment to lifelong learning, growth, and self-discovery.
Beautiful. And to our listener, thank you for joining us on this deep dive. We hope you found it as insightful and inspiring as we did. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep diving deep.